Hello and welcome to MindShareTV, where we explore the latest in education technology and innovation. I'm your host, Robert Martellacci of the MindShare Learning Port, and today we're celebrating an incredible milestone, 25 years of Taking It Global, a platform that has transformed the lives of youth worldwide, empowering them to take action for a better future. Joining me is none other than Jennifer Corriero, co-founder and Executive Director of Taking It Global, and a last-minute addition, but not least, Michael Furtick, who is the co-founder and IT Director. I think I have it right, Michael. Thank you for joining me both.
Thanks for having us.
Wow, I think I have known the both of you and Taking It Global for about 25 years. I've seen this evolution, and it's been an incredible journey of innovation and transformation. What inspired it, and take us back to the early beginning. Michael, I know you were an early entrepreneur at the age of 17 and sold an internet company, and always had that entrepreneurial and innovator's mindset. But perhaps you can kick it off and then have Jen chime in as well.
Sure. Well, this was back in the late 1990s when Yahoo was starting up and the internet was really kind of coming into being. I think it was my grade 8 media project where I studied Yahoo and the kind of new opportunities offered by not just becoming a consumer, but becoming a creator. For the first time ever, the internet allowed consumers to actually build their own websites, their own media. And I think it was not too long after that Time Magazine had the Person of the Year as you. So it was in 1999 when Jennifer and I were having a conversation about the future of education, the future of kind of youth engagement, and the fact that the internet offered an opportunity to create an online community, a space where young people could connect, collaborate, learn more about different issues. And that was also the year 1999 that the United Nations set out the Millennium Development Goals, kind of 8 problems to solve by 2015. So we thought, well, wouldn't it be powerful if we could create a learning community of students and youth all around the world who are learning about and taking action on these different social issues as a way to make their learning more engaging and also to learn about the world, right? Global education, global collaboration. That was some of what I was inspired about as a techie. And for Jen, I know she had a lot of skills around design and collaboration and partnerships that led us to some really interesting work with the United Nations in those early years too.
Yeah, well, I was coming out of high school.
Right. And a passion project, right? That became a lifelong journey for you. And we're fellow York alumni, Jen and
We are. Yeah, I was just coming out of high school. We were both teenagers at the time, and a lot of hype about how the internet was bringing the world together. But I felt like if there was just products produced by companies for profit purposes, we wouldn't necessarily be utilizing technology for humanity. So I was kind of questioning, how can we utilize all these new technologies to improve K-12 education, as both Mike and I felt like our high school experience didn't fully utilize new technologies. And fast track 25 years later, it takes a lot more than just some good ideas and a good burst. It takes a lot of sustained passion and ongoing adaptation and really strong partnerships and strong leadership. So it's been good to contribute to being a catalyst for change in this sector, but I still feel like we have a long way to go.
Absolutely. And, it doesn't happen overnight. But that growth mindset, is that nature or nurture? Can you teach growth mindset? Because I feel, and coincidentally, 50 years ago, I started high school. So, and here we are today. The basement of George Harvey Secondary School, where I went to school, high school, was almost the entire basement was a computer. And now I have more processing power in my mobile phone than that computer in our basement at the time. So we've seen tremendous change. And how important is that growth mindset and innovators mindset today
like
to be in education?
I think the nurturing is critical. And I think that if we're not actively designing education to foster the critical skills to utilize technologies for contributing to society, we will become very passive consumers. And that's what kind of drives a lot of our work. Like our website highlights our program areas, fostering creativity and digital skills. There's programs that come and go over the years, like everything is in cycles, but these core programs facilitating connected learning, supporting youth action and social innovation, these are still quite relevant today. You know, the tools change, the specific technologies change, you know, some things get outdated, but the core concepts of nurturing are like, I'm glad you asked that, because we really believe that we need to be nurturing from the youngest of ages. And sometimes when we talk about technology and education, there's a huge post-secondary focus, but we think that K-12 education needs a lot more focus and a lot more support. And that's really where we've really been committed.
Well, it's interesting as I look at the evolution of technology and the advent of AI, what it comes down to is humanity and the skills. And you're part of our C21 community. We founded the 7Cs, and I blogged about this morning saying, actually, they've come of age. Critical thinking, computational thinking, communication, collaboration, storytelling. If you can't storytell and communicate, that is going to be one of the most, and they're essential skills. They're not soft skills. I don't know who coined the phrase soft skills. Like, they're not soft skills. They're essential skills. And so that's where we're at today. So it's the human connection that you nurture. And kudos to you for congratulations. Your voice is power. Won gold in a competition. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so this program was created in collaboration with Amazon Future Engineer, UBC, Amazon Music, Georgia Tech. There's an amazing coding experience that Georgia Tech built called EarSketch, where students learn Python coding by coding their own music. And so they can go into this interface, cool, and they can remix the beats of artists like Pharrell Williams, who was one of the founders of this program, Alicia Keys. But then we collaborated.
I think I recognize those names thanks to my daughter.
Yeah. And then we collaborated with a number of different Indigenous artists from across Turtle Island, people like Twin Flames, Dakota Bear, Jaylee Wolf, Asanabi, who just won a Juno. And so students can actually use their beats as they learn to code. And they can enter to win a scholarship. So we awarded this year 2 $5,000 scholarships to students from the Calgary Board of Education and Nunavut, the government of Nunavut in Igloolik and Calgary, for the work that they did to express their beliefs and understanding of Indigenous and Canadian histories. So there's a social justice component, a coding component, a music component, and then it's really about project-based learning, because they're going through this journey and they're creating a project, a song that they're coding to express their point of view. And there's a lot of teachers. We had 2 teachers here from 3 teachers from Gene Lum Public School that turned this project into an entire multi-classroom collaboration where they created artwork, they created QR codes and essays and a parent showcase to share what they have learned. So when we talk about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the calls to action, education, how do we integrate that learning and really connect it across multiple different facets of education? AI is next. So we're developing a whole new module to teach responsible AI and bias as students learn and use AI to help them write lyrics to their next song. So this is one of our favorite programs that we run.
Jen, what drives your innovative spirit and passion? You're an artist, you're an author, award-winning, top 100 women in leadership. It's an incredible journey that you've been on. What inspires you?
One thing is the blank canvas, could be a blank notebook, and just thinking about what is possible. Our motto with Taking It Global, inspire, inform, and involve. we were just rollerblading after a conference, and we were saying, if anything was possible, what would you do? And then through a conversation, we came up with the idea of taking it global, creating an online community, creating a social network for social change. This was even before the days of Facebook. And at the end of this idea that we had, I had to write an exam about leadership. And I had to go study. And in the exam, I ended up writing very strong opinions about what I felt leadership was. And I didn't do very well on the exam because I didn't exactly regurgitate a textbook. I had a point of view. And then that's what really compelled me. We need to be nurturing the implementation of ideas for a better future, not just regurgitating things. We can learn from the past, but we don't want to regurgitate. So I think what inspires me is being a creative person.
Could I use a term that I think resonates here, and that's courageous leadership?
Thank you. I like that term. Yes.
Courageous leadership, and be bold to innovate and transform is our tagline for 2025. Be bold.
That's a great one.
To innovate and transform. I asked ChatGPT if they liked it, and it seemed to really resonate with ChatGPT. I need to come up with a name. I need a bot name for myself,
Be careful, you'll have it in a second.
Mike, I don't know if you can pull up the Flourish workbook website, but one of the things as well for me is that there were adults that believed in me when I was a teenager, and what an influence it has when someone asks you your opinion or encourages you or asks you, like, what do you need? So over the past 25 years, we've run many programs to nurture social innovators and social innovation among generations of youth. And the Flourish Workbook for Social Innovators, which I had a lovely launch year. It was over a year ago, actually. Now it's been out, but there's 55 authors, 12 modules, and we see this as a textbook for social innovation courses in university, colleges, and even high school credits. Yes.
I've been wanting to interview you for quite some time.
For Flourish, I know, we talked about this. Here we are.
We're doubling down here. So awesome. Now, I am writing a book, and you inspire me. The future work in a AI-inspired world. And it's really your playbook to optimizing human performance, right? So it's a bit of a play on words, and it's not really about technology. It's hard to harness the tools to optimize your human performance, whether it's for work or learning. And we have many co-op students that come through, and interns like you have, and it's incredible when you give them agency. And you guys have inspired me over the years. It's that mutual mentorship experience. And we first met, I think it was at ISTE where I saw you keynoting, and we've never looked back. It's been an incredible journey in being part of your community. And when you give kids agency and let them fail and let them thrive and support them and not penalize them, is that asking too much for school to be that way? Honestly,
no, but I like that. And I think when we started, as teenagers, and now enabling the next generation and the next generation, I think about the work of C21 and the work you've been doing as well, the spotlight leadership, and also create the environment to dream and to share among, teaching professionals, superintendent professionals, system leaders. So like one thing is that, someone might sit in a position and feel there's something wrong, right? But if we just feel that we can't do anything about it, then that's the thing that's wrong. And so I think that it's important to have these places for gathering and sharing inspiration and looking at change at different levels. So I think that's something that I would say is an insight over the years, that we can't underestimate the importance of having places for dreaming, and also like intergenerational as well.
Right. And storytelling. You the both of you are masters at it. I might give you more credit, Jen, than Michael, but because you're more prolific in your writing. But I know Michael's the techie behind the scenes.
He
So
codes. His stories are
understand
through his code.
But it's
right.
true. I think that really is, when you think about like what in this age of AI, where like
Yeah.
you can build anything and do so much and automate so much. It really though is that both not only the storytelling but the listening, right? Understanding
Right.
people's needs and then being able to communicate and collaborate and bring people together that way. It is, I think, one of the few skills that
And
AI won't be able to replicate.
could I use the notion of coming full circle in a meaningful way? We were at the C21 summit in Winnipeg at Truth and Reconciliation Museum, and we had an audience with the elders, and we sat in a circle. I'd never experienced that. We were in Whitehorse. That was the first time, and it was such a moving experience. And you understand the value of those traditions, and we're coming full circle, and it's so meaningful, and I'm going to segue to the Connected North on that note.
Perfect. Yeah.
And kudos to you, and maybe you can pull that up, Michael, as
Yeah,
well.
Mike, the
and
Connected North in our classroom.
talk about
too.
that award-winning program and the impact. And I know coming up to Whitehorse, I know you made some great connections up there, and were able to expand and made such an impact on the lives of the people, the First Nations people, and those in the North who are so remote. But you brought them together with a great partnership from Cisco and others. Talk to us about this initiative and where it's going.
Yeah, well, we facilitate virtual field trips, and Connected North just celebrated 10 years of the program. I've been so grateful to be helping on the team from 5 schools. We now just reached 200 schools that we service.
Wow.
Where we book virtual field trips. And what it really speaks to is the importance of students having experiential learning opportunities, hands-on learning opportunities. We'll like send kits, they'll do science experiments, they'll meet with different artists, they've met astronauts, visit with the space station, and being able to have strong Indigenous role models. Over 50% of the content providers are First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. So that's really important also for students to see themselves represented while they're at school in different positions of excellence. It sparks dreaming, it sparks pursuit of different pathways in their futures, and scaling a program is different than starting a program, and also different than sustaining a program. So it's really been important to have a whole ecosystem of partners that are involved, and to have deep roots and affirming students in their identities, like with who they are and where they are. That's been really a critical part of it. So yeah, in the Yukon, we now service all the schools across
Incredible.
Yukon First Nations and Nunavut as well, all 45 schools, many regions across Canada.
Congratulations. Michael, did you want to chime in on this one?
Well, I think that it's just so powerful for teachers to be able to, we talk about leapfrogging, right? You talk about like the going to wireless internet in other parts of the world. In some ways, this is allowing educators in remote communities to have better experiences than those maybe in a big city like Toronto. Because even here in Toronto, where we have lots of institutions, there's a lot of costs and barriers that make it difficult to do field trips. And so why not use the power of technology to bring in the best, most engaging presenters on a variety of topics? And like Jennifer said, help students see themselves represented in their learning by connecting to Indigenous role models from all across Turtle Island. So no, I think it's really powerful. And we've built a digital platform that helps teachers search and find based on curriculum, based on recommendations from other teachers. So we've kind of created a marketplace of some of the best experiential learning, I think, in the world that teachers have access to. And we've seen that, over 95% of teachers say that it increases motivation, engagement, and attendance. So that's pretty strong data.
One of the highlights, whether it's in person or online today, one of the highlights as a student was going on a field trip, and that, as you alluded to, experiential learning. And there's nothing better than hands-on learning and meeting new people and experiencing. You don't know what you don't know, right? And going into the Great White North and the tundra and sharing is a remarkable feat and an accomplishment with the technology. So I saw some recent criticism around technology not making an impact. I think it's these use cases that really demonstrate that it's not all snake oil, as a comment was made in one of my recent posts on LinkedIn that I have yet to respond to because I was still processing it. We've got Gary Steger, Dr. Steger, my former professor at Pepperdine Tech program, chimed in. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Steger. Get those kids out of a browser. And was a comment he made. He's always
actually, that's a good point too, because a lot of the work with Connected North is deepening experiences away from the classroom. So not even just outside of the browser, but outside of the walls of the classroom.
Right.
Getting outside, land-based learning is so important, as is gaining new perspectives. So if learning is designed to be inside the four walls of a classroom, first of all, literally the box, like so many different Indigenous cultures speak about a worldview that is very circular and not seeing the world in a box. And a lot of that is shown in a lot of architecture as an example. Yet a lot of Western thinking is in a square or rectangle, and it influences your mindset and your thinking, but it's a little bit less natural. So I think that it's important when we think about K-12 education, like how do we show the world from different perspectives so that students have a sense of wonder and awe and a sense of agency and a sense of motivation. A motivation is key. If you have the motivation, you can persevere through obstacles rather than just discontinuing because it's too hard. So these are things I think we need to continue to nurture in our education systems themselves, obviously, as well as the people, nurturing teachers to be able to nurture that within students.
Well said, and great insights. And I'm having a flashback to being in Whitehorse where we visited a school and we visited the outdoor classroom in the forest, and they had a number of activity centers within the forest. So if you're well dressed and prepared for it, you can enjoy that experience outdoors. And there's many benefits, as we know. There's multiple studies that we see on the impact on well-being when you're outside in the forest, surrounded by nature, and that is a challenge today, and it remains to be a challenge. Could I say post-COVID? I just even hate saying the word, but post-COVID, we're not out of the woods yet.
No, if anything, we're hearing, from a lot of healthcare professionals that there's an increase in social anxiety. And so when we think about ed tech, the role of technology in education, we need to remain relationship centered. And you used a key word, Robert, which is well-being. Mm-hmm. And how do we ensure that any tool is fostering well-being among learners as well as educator professionals, be it administrators, teachers? There's huge teacher burnout. There's huge teacher shortages across schools. It's a very serious concern, especially in northern remote communities. There are after effects since the pandemic that still need to be addressed. And I think the way we can address it is by continuing to nurture relationships and that sense of wonder and awe and excitement for learning, and that sense of agency as well.
Well said. My colleague Kanan asked me this morning, what is your one word for 2025? And I said, #complexity. And she goes, oh, and I said, well, it's complicated, right? We need to demystify. We need to embrace the challenge of problem solving. I don't think we talked about problem solving mindset, but that's what I wanted for my kids. That's what I want for the kids who we have interning with us. And I'll often say, problem solve that. And I'll throw them into a project or a situation and see how they do. And that's how you learn. That's how I've learned best over the years, real life problem solving experiences. And don't penalize a student or your kid when they are trying to solve a problem and make a mistake and don't succeed.
No, in fact, you should reward them, right? Like
right.
the concept
I've
of like
learned a lot
how
from
have you
failure,
failed? Yeah.
right? And celebrating failure, right? So one of our first startups that won our challenge, the Dragons and challenge at one of our summits, was that failure toy. What her name escapes me now.
Yeah, 21 Toys.
21
I remember
Toys.
them. Yeah, and they had an empathy toy as well.
That's right.
No, I think that's
so what's next?
That concept.
What's 25 years from now look like? 25 years from now, I hope, because I'm on the Freedom 75 plan, retirement plan, I might still be around. It's not the 55.
I feel like we've been a catalyst for change in education, yet I want to go further, and I want to see a lot more project-based learning happening in K-12, more than what we're seeing, and I want to see more resources flowing to classrooms for K-12 education. I feel that we're not realizing that teachers need to have what they need to offer opportunities for their students. In some cases, it could be educational assistants. They might need other staff or ways to support differentiated learning in the classroom. There's just so many more resources that I feel that as a society, we are, as adults, collectively responsible for the well-being of our children and youth in a society. And so I'd like to see the next 25 years, I'd love to be a part of catalyzing even greater flow of resources in K-12 education and more project-based learning so that students feel more empowered and love going to school to be a place where students are so excited to be able to go to.
Well said. And I think you raised a really good point. And there's been a number of studies that I've seen where teachers want to be more innovative. They want to implement project-based learning, but they don't have the tools. And so we need to advocate. And it's a push-pull, right? You get those who are like, stay away from the classroom. There's too much technology. Put the cell phones away. And there's the others who understand. I think it's, you don't know what you don't know. And faculties of education need to step up. And there are some really innovative faculties that are embracing AI and all kinds of initiatives. But across the board, they are preparing the future teacher leaders in the classroom. And they're not necessarily armed with the tools that they need today, right? So that's a big conundrum, and we need to advocate. I mean, it's organizations like TakingITGlobal and C21 and Mindshare and others who, let's be bold. We need to be bold to innovate and transform. We can't always be nice, and we need to push the envelope, because nice does not make change happen.
And I think the challenge too is there really is a lack of partnerships. Like, given the work we've done for a quarter century, how many times have we been approached by a faculty of education to speak to pre-service teachers to work together? Maybe 2 or 3 times, right? And so I think the challenge is, I think it's not reasonable to expect that folks in those institutions can necessarily be always keeping up to date with the latest and greatest. But you build partnerships with nonprofits, especially with companies, with leaders in the field. People are eager to support, but I often think there is a bit of a siloed mentality where there isn't that kind of collaboration. I think it's a huge missed opportunity. So if anyone who leads a faculty of education is listening, please come chat with us.
We got a few people online. We got 19 people online live listening. So we're looking to you to give us feedback as this is recorded, and you can comment on LinkedIn and other platforms to make change happen. And it's a great segue to CanCode, because that is a great partnership that's been happening for several years. You've been at the forefront of the CanCode initiative. Talk to us about that impact and what's next. I know we're waiting for more funding to come, but you made an incredible impact on computational thinking across the country.
Yeah, I think the investment that's been made in 3 cycles of CanCode has been really important to strengthen a coalition of organizations working to provide learning, develop learning resources and provide training to teachers, to principals from coast to coast to coast. So I think that's been really significant, and it's enabled a lot of partnerships and a lot of delivery of resources driven by the nonprofit sector, which is really important. It's kind of like technology agnostic. It's covered everything. And I think it's also allowed for a lot of resources to flow into classrooms through these partnerships and on a demand basis. So I think it's really important to have national initiatives, the federal government's investment in in allowing engagement in K-12. I know that in some ways it is gently stepping on the toes of the jurisdiction of education in provinces,
Right.
but I think it's essentially providing more resources, and it's kind of setting that national support. And we would like to see continued investments in that space, especially when you think about, you talked about, Robert, the problem-based learning and challenges. The World Economic Forum in the Future of Jobs report talked about complex problem solving as like the #1 desired skill. How are we preparing students for that complex problem solving? I mean, our thesis is that we need to ensure that students have the opportunity to create projects to impact their community, and even to manage some resources, right? Like if you're going to get thrown into a job, an opportunity, getting a small amount of money, a grant, some resources to do something with your peers in your community, in your school, and to get credit for it is really important. So I think CanCode has taken us a huge leap forward in terms of the availability of computational thinking and coding education across the country, and complemented what a lot of provinces and territories were already starting to do. And I think we need continued additional investments because only at that national level, I think, can you really have some of the economies of scale and resources developed where you're not replicating effort that's already been done. So I think it's been really important, and I hope it'll continue.
Yeah.
Any change of government.
It is a momentous day. Our Prime Minister announced that he's stepping down. And January 6th, there's something about January 6th that things happen on January 6th. Hopefully next year will be something even more positive. Let's look out to 2050. What does the classroom look like? And thinking back 25 years, looking ahead 25 years, what does the classroom look like for you, Jen?
Oh, wow. When we first imagined taking it global, there was a role of digital technologies that was important to the vision we had, but it wasn't more important than the physical space where students would enter to go to school. And within public education, I would love to see all the facilities have good air circulation and all their maintenance lists be up to date, and have like not rooms with old mold or whatever. Like, so I think that, not to say that the bar should be low, but what I realized 25 years into working towards a very aspirational vision is that the physical place where children go to school is beautiful, has clean air, clean water, clean drinking water, place for collaboration. I see you showing your space. I could show a little bit of ours.
Yes.
We have a few people in today. This is our office.
Yes.
You see
Beautiful.
some art.
Yes.
Actually, when we pitched for this office, as you know the story, Robert, we pitched it as like an office for the future. Can students be working on projects where they're impacting the community? Is the motivation for learning? Like, that should be one of the most important questions.
100%.
Like, instead of just students being rated on their output on whatever course, allow students to express their motivation for learning, and let that be an indicator of success for professionals. Are we sparking the motivation for students to learn, for like lifelong learners, and for teachers? What is their motivation for professional learning? Do they think they're done? No. None of us are done. Like, I learn something new every day, and I'm excited to learn. And I don't think I know it all. And if we think that there's ever a point where we know it all, then I think we are failing generations. And we also, I believe, need to all see ourselves as leaders, in the sense that if you hold a position where you're in service, whether it be in a coffee shop and you're serving a morning coffee, whether you're a janitor helping to clean the hallways, whether you're a classroom teacher, like we all have an important role to create space for others where we live.
100%.
And so we can lead in those ways, and we can do the tasks that we have, you know, with love and with care, and to be in service of those that we reach. And I think that's the kind of society that we need to think about, how we all nurture, like, for one another, and not just think that leadership is someone who holds, be it, you know, elected position.
Right.
Like, we shouldn't all be dependent on someone with a certain title, but we can all see ourselves as having a part to play in creating a society, not just for today, but for the future.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm having a flashback to an interview I did with Robin Sharma. The Leader with No Title was the book that we were talking about that he had just released. And it's so true. You can show leadership, whether you are, when I was working in the hockey rinks in high school, you know, cleaning dressing rooms and taking leadership and picking things up that should be picked up by someone else, but I could pick it up. And that I still pick up things in the mall as I'm walking along the mall, pathways that look messy, and make, you know, I'll do my part. And if we all do our part, we can make a huge impact. And the $12 billion backlog of repairs in Ontario alone requires partnership, to Michael's point. And if we bring in more corporations and not-for-profits together that are part of the ecosystem and solve these complex challenges, I think we can thrive and flourish, to use your term of your book, name of your book. We can't do it alone. And so you've certainly sparked and ignited my 2025 flame here. I'm super excited about 2025 because we can make things happen. We can truly make things happen. But before we wrap up, I know Michael probably wanted to chime in a little bit on what you shared that was so inspiring. Michael?
Well, Jennifer said a lot of great. I don't want to take that steal any thunder there. I think
From
that
a technology
lot
perspective.
Yeah, from a technology perspective, I mean, I'm
And AI.
optimistic that AI in particular will really free up. And I was just chatting with several teachers in the family, you know, a teacher yesterday over Ukrainian Christmas lunch. And we were talking just about how you can use AI to also take care of some of the paperwork and help you understand where students are and who needs what support. And so I'm optimistic when you think of the classroom of the future in 25
Right.
years, that teachers will have a lot more autonomy, a lot more freedom, a lot more time to invest in guiding the learning experience, in supporting those who need it, in inspiring and challenging students, and not having to deal with some of the paperwork and the mundane aspects that
Right.
today consume a lot of time. Because I think there's so much that most teachers are passionate about doing that currently they're held back by or limited by because of some of the systems and processes and paperwork. So I'm optimistic that some of the best AI tools and technologies that are going to be developed are going to take some of that load and burden off of teachers. They're going to help them customize and challenge students and allow them to spend their time in sparking creativity and inspiring projects and challenging them with problems. And then, you know, technology will play a role in just dealing with some of the administration and the more mundane aspects of education. So that's my optimistic perspective on it.
Well said. And I think learning, the classroom is everywhere. It's all around us. It's not restricted to four walls, as you alluded to, Jen, earlier. I think students in the future, they'll have their own personal learning plan that they collaboratively co-construct, and it's a roadmap that they will navigate. And wow, it's we better buckle in for 2025 because it's going to be quite a ride with AI, making quite an impact, and there's a lot of promise around it. Any final thoughts, Jen?
Yeah, like I just want to add about the portfolio, that student learning goes beyond the confinements of what their one school board system has to offer them, and that they can actually build their portfolios of experiences. I know micro-credentials is sort of on the rise,
Right.
a little bit more with post-secondary, but I think we need to start cultivating those types of skill sets sooner. And also when I think about, what learning experiences do students have access to, there's asynchronous, there's synchronous. So I just think there could be more blended opportunities available, and also more global opportunities. And even I think of the Canadian context, and K-12 is segmented by province and territory, but it creates a very disjointed experience. If there's students in, let's say,
Right.
Ontario want to take a course somewhere else, it's like, how do we create a more free flow so that a student can be located somewhere, and it doesn't have to be like a homeschool track to be able to be exposed to more things? Because it feels very extreme, like you're either all in this one model or all out. So I think we need to really get our imaginations flowing on actually creating what we see as an ideal education system for the future, because we're not there yet. And part of it is because we're so resource constrained. So I do agree also that partnerships and the ecosystem of partnerships is so critical. And when I think about post-secondary, what is the role of partnerships, with the nonprofit sector as well? So I think, the ability for students to drive that inquiry learning, which we've talked about for many years, and it's happening, but how do we really build on that so that the skills developed along the way can be showcased? And so, like, we fund a lot of youth-led projects. We're running programs to support youth leading community-based projects. They're not accredited. In 2025, we'll be announcing in a few months a partnership with a high school accreditation, a college accreditation, and a university accreditation. That's my
Wow.
goal. Hopefully by the end of the year, I can give you names and it can happen. I'm putting all my effort to this because I want students to not do all this community work and then feel that those skills that they're building are not
Yes.
validated. Okay,
Well said.
that's my point.
Wow.
Thank you.
I'm so inspired, and I know that there's 24 watching live right now, and those of you who are teachers, we really value all that you do, and we want to support you. And I'm going to commit to a monthly podcast, a series that we can host and have these conversations about problem solving and moving systems forward around courageous leadership and being bold to innovate and transform. What does that look like?
Awesome.
It's a system.
That's
it's
great.
a process, right? You can't just say I'm going to transform. You have to have a roadmap, digital transformation roadmap, enable you to achieve those goals that you set out. And we want to work with school districts as we do, and leveraging AI to offload a lot of the pressure that's on educators. And Michael, you talked about the app that you're creating, and that's amazing. Once we get more laser focused, and it's about using the right tool at the right time. As I have my toolbox at home, and I need to, put up a print, so I need a hammer, I need a nail, or what have you. That's analogous to what we need to do in education. Don't use 1,000 tools. There's thousands. There's 12,000 apps out there. I didn't realize how many apps there are. There's 500 companies in EdTech in Canada doing business. But let's focus. There's going to be a lot of consolidation, I'm predicting, for 2025 amongst these EdTechs. They're all so passionate, want to make an impact. But really, it's about feeding into that ecosystem.
And it's getting so easy to make apps that like students can make their own app for their class. Teachers can, school districts can make their own apps, right? So I think as that gets easier to do, you're going to have more innovation from within the system, which is going to be even more responsive to what students need.
And that's a really good point, Michael. When I look at what students are capable of today, they are going to take way more control over their learning. And the self-learning, Innovire is a not-for-profit that started in Peel of high school kids who come in here on the weekend, bring the elementary kids, and they teach STEM projects, across the board. And they cover all the bases. And it's high school kids teaching elementary kids. And one of them recently went off to Waterloo Engineering, who was the
Yeah.
president of the
Wow.
organization.
Tough. That's one
And-
of 10,000.
and
Right? Yeah.
imagine these are high school kids that, despite the system, are teaching themselves.
Hmm.
And I think that's a trend that's going to repeat itself. And what's the role of the teacher, right?
Yeah.
The role of the
And
teacher is evolving.
facilitation.
Right?
They
Yes.
talk about like the sage
Definitely.
on the stage to the guide on the side, right? That like
Right.
guiding and unleashing what students already have
Uh,
passion for. How do you just create those sparks, right?
You know, and they're not going to go away. They just need to redefine their role and to nurture these kids and their passions. And, you know, so never been a more exciting time to be in education. And it's almost 25 years for me being in ed tech. I've been in education all my life as a former administrator. I think and here's something else that's really important. As you alluded to, rollerblading. I like to rollerblade in the summertime, but I just played my 38th year, entered my 38th year of faculty hockey at York University this
I
past
just love
Friday.
that.
38.
You're inspiring, Robert, as well.
38.
And I do
Well,
want to commend your perseverance, because I know you're giving us the spotlight and you're
yeah.
acknowledging, you know, what we've done. But I think, you know, that really speaks volumes for you to continue playing hockey. It's not an easy sport to play. You know, I actually don't play hockey now, but I did when I was younger. So that inspires me to get back out there on the ice. But yeah, like just to stay active. Like, we talk a lot about tech, but it's also that
Balance.
well-being. Balance is so important, you know, balancing. We don't want to
mentorship.
always be on the screen.
Right?
And
It was
mentorship is key.
my 92-year-old left winger, former president of York University, who signed my degree and recruited me to the team when I started it as an administrator at York, one of the ones who inspired me. So you need role models, you need mentors, you need to be a mentee, and that's part of that ecosystem that we need to continue to nurture collectively. With that,
Thank you.
With that, thank you so much. Congratulations. I wish you another awesome 25 years of impact and innovation and student inspiration and innovation. So grateful for your time, Jennifer Corriero, Michael Furtick, Taking It Global co-founders. My name is Robert Martellacci, the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out www.mindshare.learning to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.